startups, entrepreneurship, starting your own new business. Join me every week as we dive into stories, topics, and advices from the top founders, innovators, the crazy ones, the misfits, the troublemakers. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. I'll see you there. All your life you worked in very big organizations. Why did you start it yourself? कैसे हुआ? क्या उसमें hurdle आए?
I have been CEO of organization which was in crisis and I managed it. उस लिहाज से मेरे काफ़ी एक unique मेरे experiences हैं. रगड़ा लगता है, सख्ती आती है, लेकिन if you are able to work hard and go through it, then you will reap the rewards of it. यहाँ पे administrative control will determine whether you survive. If you survive, you will win.
We still need a lot of investment in Pakistan, but more than investment, we need minds out from outside Pakistan. बंदा बाहर से point out करता है, तो we're like, oh my god, कि हम ये इसको पर काम नहीं कर रहे थे यार. It was so easy to solve.
US is about potential possibility. They value youth, energy, passion, and drive. We value experience. पाकिस्तान में मसले हैं, डेप्थ टैलेंट नहीं है, टीम स्टेबल नहीं है. ये नहीं कि आपका वाईफाई काम कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा. It's a highly inefficient system.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Saad Allahwala and we're back with another podcast with a very special guest who is, it's very exciting to have him over today because I've been following him for a while. I just got to find out, like I met him 10 years ago in Sri Lanka and उस वक्त तो एक छोटा सा कैमरा होता था, मैं लेके घूमता रहता था, and that's when I last met him. But it's an honor to have you. Today we have Malik Jalal, who is the founder at Cordoba Ventures and the director also. He is doing a lot in the VC world. He has a very rich past, a lot of learnings that I want to get the most out of him today. First of all, thank you for coming today. Or I want to start off from your journey a bit. Where did you start? Where did you grow up? School कहाँ गए? University का थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में, and then how did your work journey start?
Great. Thank you, Saad, for having me with you. It's indeed a privilege. And particularly as we remember that we met like the 2013 Chogam, the Commonwealth Conference in Sri Lanka, and you were going there. And I'm glad to see that you made so much progress from taking pictures to being in front of the camera. So that's very good progress in a very short period of time. And I'm a big believer that young people like you, inshallah, will do very well. And, you started early. So all the best to you.
Thank you.
I'm a typical Pakistan family. Parents were military. My father was also military. My mother was also military. Wow. My mother was a doctor in the Army Medical Corps. And I always say my mother was commissioned. And a lot of people, when I go abroad, I tell people that, my mother went to boarding school in 1957. She went to Khyber Medical College. She's not in the city where she lived. She lived in Rawalpindi, Islamabad. Wow. And she went to boarding school. And then for 5 years, she studied there in a boarding school. In those days, even in America, women would not be going and studying to that extent.
Sure.
And so she then worked for about 35 years. And so was my father. My father was also in the military, in the infantry. So I had what I call a Fauji brat, a cantonment kid upbringing. I was born in Bahawalpur. Wow. Which is a Chhauni, the cantonment, then Gujranwala, and then mostly in Rawalpindi, where I grew up. But, most of the upbringing was in that city. And Rawalpindi, in a sense, is a small town. And so some of the things that you have is a small town upbringing that you have always stayed with me. And I'm glad that they have, because they ground you, they make you a bit more humble. एक छोटे शहर में रहने के वजह से. But ये है कि I was very lucky that after my O and A levels, I went abroad. I went to London. उस ज़माने में आपको पता है करियर काउंसलिंग वैसी नहीं होती थी जिस तरह आजकल के ज़माने में होती थी. My मामू was a chartered accountant. He was a successful chartered accountant. So I looked at him when I was a young kid and I said, he's doing very well. He's making good money. Maybe I should do that. So that was to the extent of the career counseling that one used to get. You look at examples in your families. And so that's where I went to London. I joined London School of Economics. I did BSc Economics from there. It was a fantastic experience. And I think part of it was living in London. London is a great city. I think once in your lifetime one should experience London or New York or even now these days Dubai. इंसान को रहना चाहिए, and that really opened up my mind, and a lot of things, a lot of learning that I got was as a student and then subsequent living in London. So 3 years I was at London School of Economics. Then I went and joined Arthur Andersen, a Big Four accountancy firm, one of the Big Four at that time, the most prestigious one, and that was to trade as a chartered accountant. Then there was this crisis called the Enron crisis in 2001, 2002, which was a big energy trader. Uska experience jo tha, uska thoda sa, there was very complicated things, but in essence, the company went down. And as a result, the auditor of that company was Arthur Andersen. So Arthur Andersen didn't survive that. And we ended up becoming part of Deloitte. So I then joined Deloitte, and there I was part of something called...
This is all in London also?
It is all in London. Okay. So I was part of something called Private Equity Transaction Services, which was investing through helping private equity firms. This was the early days of private equity, in investing in assets. So some of the deals that we did, अगर आप लंदन गए हो तो Debenhams एक बहुत बड़ा एक स्टोर है, तो Debenhams की $2.5 billion pounds की जो transaction थी उसके ऊपर हमने काम किया, तो उसका financial model build करना, उसका due diligence करना. So it was a big transaction at that time. Indeed. We work with Texas Pacific Group, which is a big private equity group in the world. So उस तरह का मुझे investment banking का मुझे काफ़ी experience हो गया, transaction structuring का. Then subsequently I went and I joined Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs के बारे में कहा जाता है Goldman Sachs doesn't advertise. ठीक है, Goldman Sachs is the premier, the top investment bank in the world. Goldman Sachs के बारे में ये भी कहा जाता है कि they don't even put their तख्ती outside of their offices.
Oh my God. छुपने के लिए या...
नहीं, उनका the thinking is anyone who needs to know us knows us.
Wow.
So once you have, think about it like a celebrity. If you are a big celebrity, then everyone knows you. Everyone who should know you knows you, and don't need to tell them your name. So it's a bit like thinking like that. So Goldman Sachs was again a 5-year experience, a great experience मेरे लिए. मैं वो 5 साल के लिए जो मैंने किया था investment banking की तरफ था, structured income desk में था, and the amount of money, the kind of complexity of the things that you dealt with was out of this world. Was anything that would you would not be able to grapple the scale of it, the money that went through in here. I would think that in Goldman Sachs की जो हमारा floor था, जो fixed income currency commodities था, वहाँ पे तकरीबन 5 या 6 partners होते थे. So, and each partners, the kind of money that flowed through their desk was equal to like 3 CEOs of banks in Pakistan. So literally, you have an organization which has a heft just on one floor, which is equal to 15 banks in Pakistan, and that tells you a lot about the Pakistan में चीजें इतनी बड़ी नहीं है, scale नहीं है.
Of course.
But also when you're part of a big thing, you also realize that how small Pakistan is and some of the market that we is, and when you look at it, and unfortunately we'll talk more about it, that how the financial flows in Pakistan are so little. So वो हुआ. फिर then there was a day on 16th October 2008. And that was the day when Lehman Brothers went down. There was a very famous case. Bear Stearns हुआ था. This is the mortgage or credit crisis 2008 में हुआ था US में. जो आपको पता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा crisis हुआ था. उसकी वजह से पहले Bear Stearns as investment bank, it defaulted, and then Lehman's went down.
Wow.
And so I was on the trading floor when markets opened on Monday. Lehman went down on Sunday. The Federal Reserve decided they are not going to bail Lehman Brothers, and so Lehman went down, and I was on the trading floor on the following day, and it was absolute chaos. होता ये है कि banks में, all there are 5-10 different banks, and they have taken positions trading with each other.
Right.
And हम क्या करते हैं कि जो the hedging that was taking place, the exposure is calculated on a net basis. So मैंने आपके साथ 5 transactions positive की हुई हैं, 3 transactions negative की हुई हैं. So मेरा जो exposure है आपसे वो सिर्फ 2 net का exposure है. ठीक है. मगर जब होता ये कि let's say Lehman goes away, so you are no longer there. So मेरी जो वो पूरी 5 transactions है वो एक तरफ expose हो गई और 3 transactions दूसरी तरफ expose हो गई है. So suddenly what happens is that the systemic risk जो मार्केट में होता है, बिकॉज एक बिग प्लेयर होता है, एक बिग काउंटर पार्टी चला जाता है, वो डबल नहीं हो जाता, वो क्वाड्रुपल और से भी ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है. Because suddenly your one counterparty that was there is no longer there, and now you're exposed on all sides of it. So it was absolutely chaos. And then I was walking through the trading floor. And if you think about the trading floor is like 1 acre पे कंप्यूटर स्क्रीन पे स्क्रीन लगी हुई है और हर बंदे के डेस्क पे एटलीस्ट 5 कंप्यूटर स्क्रीन्स है और like double layers of like 2 floors of the computer screen. So I was going through that, and then suddenly what happened is that there was thought that came to my mind. Thought was that is it as good as it gets? In the midst of all that chaos, there was calm. It was kind of a calm moment. It's a moment of Zen. Is it as good as it gets? And the reason why it came to me is because as an investment bank working at Goldman Sachs, you think you have arrived and you're at the top of the world. And Goldman Sachs के बारे में ये भी markets में और newspaper में कहा जाता था कि they are masters of the universe. So we were like consider ourselves to be masters of the universe. But then suddenly this crisis happens, and then you become very vulnerable. See, and suddenly you could go bankrupt. Citibank is almost bankrupt. Morgan Stanley is almost bankrupt. Sabki share prices $2, $3, $5 पे हैं. We were the strongest one. We were at about $70 पे थे हम. लेकिन फिर भी you get vulnerable, and then you really question your life, that what you're doing, is it really impactful? Is it really worth it? Is it as good as it gets? And then what I did was that it took me on a journey. It took me some things. I decided this is not as good as it gets, and I should have more impact. I should have more meaning. And so I went to the Kennedy School of Government at the Harvard University to study public policy. As उससे मेरा experience भी ये था कि in Pakistan and places like Pakistan, the issue is that government sector is a big player. Government can shut you down. The government is a big allocator of resources. So you need to understand how the government works. ये बाहर के मुल्कों में इतना नहीं होता. Western countries में it's not the case. In particular, what I call the Anglo-Saxon, the Australian, the UK, the American. आप Anglo-Saxon world होते हैं. वहाँ government जो होती है ना, if you do something wrong, the government can clamp down on you. But generally, the government is out of the way. So if you go to America, if somebody has a job with the Federal Reserve, which is the government, or job with JP Morgan, everyone will go and join JP Morgan. Nobody wants to go and work for the government unless you're very passionate about public servant. Pakistan में अगर आपको CSS का exam pass हो गया और दूसरी तरफ आपका HBL का job है, so people will not go and join HBL. People will go for the government, because the government is so much there in your everyday life. ये एक reality है. तो मैं उसको learn करने के लिए I went to the Kennedy School of Government, and it was a fantastic experience. And I did something called Pakistan Fast Growth 100, which was a ranking of SMEs SMEs in Pakistan, which is incidentally the same place where I met your father for the first time. In Boston and also in Dubai, other places. And we basically, the thinking behind was that Pakistan was going through another financial crisis, knock knock. We are same place there. This is about 2009, 2010.
कब नहीं था. That's what I want to ask.
कब नहीं था.
आपकी जिंदगी लंबी गई. मैं तो जब से पैदा हुआ हूँ, जब से
नहीं, मेरी जिंदगी में भी ऐसे ही हो रहा है. There's always the potential of Pakistan. There's always in the future. जब कभी वो realize नहीं हुआ. So the thing was that so I did that initiative because the idea was that whilst Pakistan was going, even at that time bankrupt or in the IMF program, there were about 100 companies, SME companies, who were growing, who had created 14,000 jobs. And they had grown by 81% per annum over 2 years. I'm talking about 2009 to 2011.
What kind of companies are there?
So they were like RB Soft, E2E supply chain management उस ज़माने में, Roshan packages जो अब list हो गई हैं, Spell, आपकी जो City University Peshawar में, they were run of the mill. They were not as many tech companies at that time.
But these are still SMEs.
These were SMEs at that time, but now they have become large companies. Okay. Some of them, 2 of them have also got listed. Roshan packages was SME at that time, but has got listed on the Lahore Stock Exchange. Wow. So has Roshan packages. So it's a great success story. So हमने उसकी एक ranking बनाई थी. उसमें Harvard Business School के एक professor है Michael Porter के नाम से. You must have heard of him. Porter's 5 Forces. ठीक है. There's Michael Porter is one of the topmost person in strategy. उनका एक paper होता है 1980s में on strategy. And if you think about the world of strategy and strategy consulting, Michael Porter created it. So this was his initiative called All World Network. And उसके ज़रिए हमने पाकिस्तान में is this ranking, we created this ranking. And so what I realized from that initiative was that the where is the breakthrough for Pakistan will come. It's not going to come from the financial sector. It's not going to come from the government. It is going to come from the entrepreneurs. So if you have 100 entrepreneurs who've created 14,000 jobs in 2 years, if you have 1,000 of these entrepreneurs, then you'll have created 140,000 jobs. And if you have 10,000 of these entrepreneurs, then you will have 1.4 million jobs.
Right.
And they are growing by 81%. When the country is contracting, they're growing at 81% per annum. So the problem, the economic challenge and the problem of Pakistan is actually we don't have as many entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
We need to create 10,000, which is something that your father also talks about.
100%.
But this is something also that I have realized from my own initiative is that, gosh, we have 100 of these. If there were 10,000, we would be a rich country. So that's what really took me into entrepreneurship, venture capital. And that was a fascinating experience for me, because then I realized I met these people. They came to Boston, a lot of them, and it was very successful initiative. By the way, Pakistan 100 was part of Turkey 100, was part of Arabia 100, and the number one company in Pakistan became also the number one company in Arabia 500. So that was in a way, it was one year, it was E2E supply chain management 1 year. And then another one was a company based in Islamabad. It was in real estate and construction development. So, so suddenly you have an event in Dubai where there are 500 entrepreneurs and the number one company there is from Pakistan. And these were based on audited accounts and everything, and that was fantastic initiative. But that also led me to, if I were to drive and create impact and change in Pakistan, I need to do it through entrepreneurship enablement, entrepreneurship support. So that's why that it took me to a company called Riyada Ventures. So Riyada Ventures was a company based in Amman, Jordan. और वहाँ पे मैंने कोई 6 महीना लगाया SMEs में venture capital में invest करना. And then that company became something called Riyada Enterprise Development. We were investing in Tunisia, we were investing in Jordan, in Lebanon, very exciting, and then Amman, and also in Dubai. And then a company called taken over by Abraj Capital.
Okay.
So then Abraj was something which is a big private equity group. I was part of that, and of course created something called a Pakistan SME fund, a small and mid-cap growth capital fund. Pakistan Growth and Mid-Cap Fund invested.
When was this?
This was 2014.
2014
में हमने ये create किया था. It was a $93 million fund.
Wow.
It was highly successful because it was a fairly large fund. We invested in Cinepex Cinema and also invested in a wind power project company. So वहाँ से भी काफ़ी मेरा पाकिस्तान में venture capital or private equity का experience हुआ, and some of the things that eventually led to Cordoba Ventures, which I'm going to talk about, actually comes from experiences from there. So that happened, and then suddenly this opportunity came to be the CEO of an organization called the Aman Foundation. So about 2015, Aman Foundation was running large deficits, and I was brought in to transform the organization. So Aman Foundation was meant to be a social enterprise. ठीक है, वो have sustainable model with a social mission, but उसका deficit, उसकी cost वगैरह काफी बढ़ गई थी. So then I came in. I came in to streamline a foundation, a charity, in order to cut costs, in order to make it more efficient, in order to make it more entrepreneurial. Actually, that was a very challenging role, because आपको पता है पाकिस्तान में जो charity sector है उसमें self righteousness बहुत होती है. So people always, everyone questions your motives. Everyone thinks you have an ulterior motive, and whatever you're doing has another agenda, and that my motives are clear. So when I came in and I was cutting costs down and I was forcing people to think about revenue or revenue sustainability, then people always thought, oh, why is this private equity guy in a foundation? And this is charity work, this is God's work, and why are you cutting on costs? So I used to tell people, and some of the people would say, when I started reducing the number of people in the organization, some people said, my job is someone's charity. So why are you interfering with that? I said, look, your job is not someone's charity, your outcome is someone's charity.
Yes.
So please try to understand it, make it very clear. In a non-profit, no one's job is a charity. The purpose of a not-for-profit is not to create jobs for its people. The purpose of a charity or a foundation is to achieve the highest impact in the least amount of cost. And the least amount of cost is paramount to it, much more than a commercial enterprise. Because if you think about a not-for-profit or in impact work, the problem that you're solving, education, health, nutrition, gender, these are huge problems. And the capital that you have available to solve them is much less.
Exactly.
Okay, compared to size of the problem. So that capital has to go and solve the problem. And so you have to be much more cost conscious and cost effective. Whereas in the commercial sector, let's say you have to go and solve the problem of FMCG, some kind of FMCG product. The capital available is far more and the size of the problem is not that big. So actually you can afford to be more relaxed in a commercial setting than in a not-for-profit setting. But hota ye amooman, because people want to be nice and soft in the charity sector, they don't have the same kind of rigor that they have in the business sector. So what you need, charity needs, is much more rigor. So when I did that, that was a fantastic experience because I got a lot of opposition. I got a lot of criticism of it because of some of the initiatives I did. If something didn't have impact, I would cut it down. I would divert the resources to other initiatives which were more impactful. And I said, look, this is my responsibility to my stakeholders who are the donors, that I use their money in the most impactful way. And so we were the first ones to introduce this thing called the ROI, which is the impact return. Okay, so when you invest in a capital, you look at a financial return. But when you invest in a charity or donation or impact, you should look at the impact that it achieves. And the more impactful an investment is, the more investment should get.
Okay.
See, so you are able to qualify whether this initiative versus another initiative, which one is more impactful. And of course, that will draw more capital or more investment into it. So that was a very fascinating experience. That was highly operational experience for me, because then I was running an organization, the ambulances, जो कि पूरे कराची जा रही थी, कोई लियारी में जा रहा है, कोई फ्रंटियर कॉलोनी में जा रहा है. अच्छा, कभी कभी आपको क्राइसिस आ जाते हैं, फायरिंग, बंदा एक सीन पे पहुंचता है, वहां पे फायरिंग हो जाती है, and then you have to deal with the everyday life.
And you're the CEO. So
and you're the CEO.
हर चीज पे आपको
कॉल आनी है या कोई मसला होना है, and you have to resolve it. So I realized that thing, that Pakistan is highly operational. There's so many things, parameters that can go wrong, that you need to be very hands-on. This is not a country where by sitting on the board you can control or you can manage things through oversight. You have to be very hands-on. It was a fantastic and fascinating experience for me because it's very different from investment banking and private equity. मैं आपको example देता हूँ, जब मैं private equity में होता था, I used to be in I used to sit on the boards, and I used to always, like, you were my founder, and always used to be critical of the founder. Yeah, you're not doing things fast enough. You should do fast enough. And why are this taking so much time? Why could this be done better? But then when I went and become a founder or operator or a CEO myself, I realized, my God, getting things done is very difficult, and it takes always so much more time.
Of course.
So that was a fantastic experience for me. And that has taken me to Cordoba Ventures, which is a venture builder. And I can talk more about it, but that's culmination of all my history and everything that has gotten into where I am today. But I thought I'll leave it at that for now.
No, of course. And I want you to continue, but I want to know कि कब आपको हुआ कि, क्योंकि all your life you worked for an organization, again, very big organization, so only the largest in the world, and उसके बाद why did you start it yourself, and कैसे हुआ, क्या उसमें hurdle आए, and then how are you guys operating? Because you told me something that's very different, and that VCs right now, how they're operating, they might use a better strategy to operate, and why the typical VCs are actually failing the whole system. तो उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा मुझे सीखना है.
Excellent. So thank you. Of course, इंसान की जिंदगी में बहुत growth होती है, बहुत mistakes होती हैं. I have been through organizations which have gone through crisis. I have been CEO of organization which was in crisis, and I managed to land it properly and let it continue. And I'm very proud of it that under me, I have hired people, 5 of them have become CEOs,
MashaAllah.
Both my successor and in other organizations. See? And I was big in talent development. So sakti ragda lagta hai, सख्ती आती है, लेकिन if you are able to work hard and go through it, then you will reap the rewards of it and of hard work.
Indeed.
Become CEOs or C-suite person in that. So मेरे उस लिहाज से मेरे काफ़ी एक unique मेरे experiences हैं. So one of the things that I combined is basically the experience of Goldman Sachs and Deloitte in London to very on ground operational experience in Pakistan. So I didn't go and work in Harbourfront. See, I wasn't working in Forum. I was working in Korangi, and my business was in, business or operations was across Karachi. Future colony में कभी rangers का छापा पड़ गया, पूरा इलाका बंद हो गया, ठीक है. So these are kind of places where I had to understand how to navigate and do that. So मेरे 2-3-4 जो मेरे principles हैं जिसके through मैं Cordoba Ventures को किया है. Number one, पाकिस्तान में there is a lot of system drag. There is a lot. The system has built a lot of what I call operational leverage, which is basically a lot of things can go wrong. So survivability is about navigating those operational challenges on a daily basis or a weekly basis. If you are not able to navigate that, if you're not able to stop the theft, or if you're not able to stop the get people to come, attendance and all of those things in time, and make sure people do the job done, your strategy doesn't matter. And the strategy technically in Pakistan is less important. I'm not saying it's not important at all. It's less important because there's so much of growth happening. The market grow kar raha hai 5, 10, 15% pe. So if you are a better player, you should be able to grow double that. 20, 25% natural growth rate aapki market mein hai. जो कि अमेरिका वगैरह में नहीं है. वहाँ पे you need strategy, intellectual ideas in order to extract more growth. Pakistan is a different market. Pakistan is a highly, number one, operational and administrative market. यहाँ पे administrative control will determine whether you survive. If you survive, you will win. It's simple as that in a market like Pakistan. But if you don't survive, you will lose. Right. So number one is be operations focused, be operations led. Number one. Number two, एक ये होता है, changing culture is far more difficult than building a new culture. ये भी एक बहुत बड़ी बात है. पाकिस्तान में and markets like Pakistan, people changing people's behavior is difficult. That's why तब्दीली doesn't happen. Right. ठीक है, बस आ रही है, कभी कभार आएगी, देखा जाएगा. लेकिन it doesn't come in a time frame, like it may come in 30 years, but which you and I would be comfortable with is like 3 to 5 years. So it's changing culture is very difficult. Better to build a culture. ठीक है, better to build a culture from step day zero. Hence a new venture is better. Hence getting your practices right on day one is better. So for instance, if you are someone who keeps double books and you say यार एक दिन मैं बड़ा हो जाऊंगा तो मैं सिंगल बुक्स की तरफ आ जाऊंगा, मैं इंस्टीट्यूशलाइज हो जाऊंगा, मैं फॉर्मलाइज हो जाऊंगा, वो होता नहीं है, बहुत मुश्किल है. उसकी वजह ये कि जब भी आप करेंगे आपको 1 या 2 साल डिप लेनी पड़ेगी. Right. ठीक है. The moment you move from a tax transparent system, from a double bookkeeping where you don't show your full revenues, to a transparent tax system where you show full revenues, आपको 1 साल या 2 साल आपका एक profitability में और even top line में hit आ सकती है. Most people are by that time don't want to take that, and so they continue like that. Of course. So they are never able to institutionalize in the proper manner. So the right time to institutionalize is to do it on day zero. Of course. You build the system based on institutionalization. So that's why building venture rather than changing venture is something which is easier. Not that it cannot be done the other way, but it's easier for the sake of getting the culture right and getting your practices right. So that's number two. So number one is operations. Number two is building versus transforming is better. Number तीसरी चीज़ ये है कि Pakistan is a sector whereby it is where you need to look at models where least amount of government intervention is involved. See? Because government intervention or regulation, a huge amount of it is gonna slow down your progress.
Like आप जब भी drag की बात कर रहे थे,
बिल्कुल आपके जहाँ भी आपके गवर्नमेंट के पास जाके NOC, no objection certificate, non encumbrance certificate, non due certificate लेना पड़ जाएगा, आप slow हो जाएंगे. So you need to look at B2B and B2B2C businesses. So it's consumer facing, where government is not involved. Because government in Pakistan is a hindrance. Government anywhere in the world is a hindrance relative to other places, but in Pakistan it's a bigger hindrance.
Yeah.
So number three areas that you need to look at, sectors like health, education, logistics, जहाँ पे government की involvement कम है, or you can build businesses there. And number the fourth जो उसका principle वो ये है कि you need to work on a partnership model. ठीक है, partnership model से क्या मुराद है? Why do family businesses succeed in Pakistan? Because there's a lot of family members who can jump into the business, hands-on be involved and help solve the problem.
Yep.
ठीक है जी, ये एक system है. So you need to be a team or work with a close team of people who can work with you and have a high level of trust and high level of operation capability. Because market mein crisis aayega, you need trusted people who are able to go in and act on your behalf or act on behalf of the company. So partnership model is very important.
Right.
So that's why what we've gone into is something called Cordoba Ventures, what we've built over a period of time, which is a venture builder. And what we do is we either build ventures ourselves, or founders like yourself from like basically basement से हम start करते हैं, seed or pre-seed stage से, बल्कि pre-seed stage से start करते हैं. But we provide capital, but we also provide a lot more operating support to them.
Okay.
So a lot more financial support, a lot more fundraising support, a lot more supply chain support. We have people who have that experience that we can parachute into those businesses and help them run those businesses. And the idea is that ventures, single founder ventures cannot scale or find it difficult to scale. And that and that's why they need family support. So आपके family नहीं होगा तो आपका एक institutionalized partner like Cordoba Ventures can provide that support for you to help you grow. ये एक हमारा बहुत बड़ा principle है. On the basis of that, we invest in health tech, fintech and logistics. We either build our own businesses. One of our businesses is about 300-400 meters away, very much grassroots level, building a nursing and allied health training institute called Cordoba Care Institute of Health Management.
Wow.
ठीक है, so वो हम अभी कर रहे हैं. उसके अलावा we work with a founder, a very star founder, Dr. Sara Siddiqui. उनका जो कंपनी का नाम है MedIQ.
Oh, yes.
So MedIQ is one of the, and you should definitely have her next time when you're here. MedIQ is one of the largest, it's the youngest but the largest healthcare technology company.
Her,
and she's doing mashallah very well, and she's got a fantastic experience, and that is what we and whereas I'm supporting her as a strategy partner, helping in fundraising and some of the work to enable her to grow the business and to do and deal with some of the operating situations in Pakistan. Then I have another partner, Daraksha, who's got another founder who's founding another company called P2, which is a logistics and fintech company, which is currently in the early stages of development. So we work with founders and we work with trusted people who have a lot of faith in their competence, in their capability in order to drive them. So inshallah, P2 and Darakshan is the founder over there, who is going to be in the logistics space in the very near future, would be coming to the market.
Awesome.
So we work, and so we unlike a normal venture capital firm which invests in 10 maybe 15 investments in a year, we would invest in probably 2 to 3 investments in a year, because we believe in the Peter Thiel saying about focus, that instead of having a wide basket of eggs and have too many eggs and not worry if some of them end up being bad, it's just have 1 egg or 2 egg, but watch it much more carefully.
Of course.
So that's the mantra of Cordoba Ventures. We partner with best founders, invest in them, and also spend a lot of time and effort in helping them realize their dreams.
So just before the podcast, you were explaining why the typical VC actually fails. And so you said that you guys join in as partners, आप लोग बहुत ज़्यादा logistics में भी और अलग-अलग चीज़ों में support करते हैं. How do you see कि आपके वाले model पे, and the models actually work, उस model पे ज़्यादा लोग पाकिस्तान में आ सकें in the current scenario, and how would you convince them? So because we still need a lot of investment in Pakistan, but more than investment, we need minds from outside Pakistan जैसे कोई वैली से हो या कोई बाहर पाकिस्तानी ना भी हो. I was just hosting a guy who was in from New York, and he sees the potential in Pakistan that sometimes we don't see. I mean, we know it, मगर वो हमें जब बंदा बाहर से point out करता है तो we're like, oh my god, कि हम ये इसको पर काम नहीं कर रहे थे, या it was so easy to solve and just so doable. So how would you convince a guy or a company to come to Pakistan and actually start working here?
So I think, so let me tell you one thing. US is a very unique place in the world. ठीक है? Any place US is about potential possibility.
Yeah, of course.
ठीक है? This is not, Europe is not like that. No other country is like that. So someone coming from US being positive is, the US is based on possibility. See? So I'm giving you example of it. I went in Rhode Island, New England में मैं गया एक fund manager के पास. I was raising the Pakistan fund. So उनके पास मैं गया. I landed on the train station. I went to them. You know, I was in my mid to early 30s at that time. और मेरे पास 4-5 लोग थे. उनके पास मुझे 1 घंटा 45 minutes. I sat there and they grilled me about Pakistan, the Pakistan potential and everything. And I walked out of the meeting. I said, okay, went okay, but there was no expectation of anything. 2 weeks later, my colleague Saad Alexander called them up, and they were basically that same fund was going to invest in one of our funds in Egypt, North Africa. So Pakistan का कहीं नामो निशान नहीं था. तो उन्होंने कहा कि यार, उन्होंने पूछा कि follow up, how was the meeting and everything. She said, okay, we'll put $5 million or $10 million in the North Africa fund, but we'll put $15 million in Pakistan. And she was shocked. I said, and she was shocked because it was like $0 to $15 million in a single meeting. And the reason why that is, and if is that thinking is, so, and the very interesting thing that happened in that meeting is they never asked me who is the older patriarch gray-haired guy behind me. See, when you're a young person, they are always asking, people are always asking who's the mature and who's the older established person backing you.
Yeah.
ठीक है, ये पाकिस्तान में हमेशा होता है, ये यूरोप में भी होता है, अमेरिका में नहीं होता. It's a very interesting thing. They value youth. They think that Saad, possibly as a young guy, if I bet on him, he can do a chakka, like a real chakka on the last ball, that someone who's been working there for 30 years has not been able to achieve. So they would rather bet on you as a fresh possibility of getting them outsized returns, than someone who's been working for 30 years and has not been able to achieve that. We value experience in our market, whereas the US, and that's why venture capital is successful over there, values youth, values energy, passion, and drive. Because what they're looking for, and this is about those venture capital people that I met, the investors there arrived. They had a, from the telecoms industry, they are looking for the next big thing. This is very interesting. They are looking, if you're there, and they may think the next big thing may be in Pakistan. And the next big thing could be Saad. But and Saad is more likely to be the next big thing than Saad plus 30 years experience.
Of course.
See, because Saad ki still, the trajectory is undetermined. See? Somebody who's worked for 30 years, his trajectory sari ho chuki hai. So that is one thing very unique about the US. And that's why one must respect them. One must learn from them that they are a country of possibility, and that's why they back young people and they come to Pakistan. Literally, when I raised money in Pakistan, I was able to raise money quicker, faster with Americans, with Europeans, non-Pakistani than I was with Pakistan, because they are able to see my possibility. They're able to see the positive things, and they're not too jaded by Pakistan. So number one, I think मेरे ख्याल में एक तो ये मैं आपको clear कर दूं कि US का जो लोगों की एक खास बात है. My main point about VC is a US concept, okay? And it started from Silicon Valley, and it's done on it is based on a couple of principles, basically. The VC in the Silicon Valley, number one, it's based on the principle of very tight group of people. So if you look at people like Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, or even everyone out there, they go to university and then they park themselves in Silicon Valley. See? The first exit they get, they buy a house. See? Everyone in Silicon Valley has been living there for 10 to 20 to 25 years. See?
Exactly.
They are either, if Saad and Ahmad Jalal are in the Silicon Valley, I would be an investor in Saad. Tomorrow, Saad would be an investor in me. 10 years down the road, Saad would be working for me. ठीक है, and 15 years down the road I would be working for Saad. See? So there is this continuous flow of people and transactions that is taking place that creates a high trust and low hanky-panky kind of environment.
Yeah.
So because people know that if Saad or Ahmad, something happens, a hanky-panky happens, you have this potential to do multiple transactions, multiple ways to work with Saad. That will never happen if you do the wrong thing. So that's one thing that is very unique to Silicon Valley, and that's why it is successful. That's why high volume investing works there, because by and large, if Saad is someone who's operated in Silicon Valley for 10 to 20 years, then he has done good. Yeah. And he has worked with someone that you know. See? Number one is that this connectivity of people. Number two is referencing. See, so the biggest referencing is not on the business model, because the business model will change. Operating is Saad the right guy?
Right.
See, so the people referencing is the most important. So most of the time, people are calling up people. Do you know Saad? Do you know Saad as an employer? Do you know Saad as an investor? Do you know Saad as a neighbor or whatever? And they do that, and that's the biggest due diligence point. Referencing in Pakistan doesn't work. Why?
Oh.
Why? Because people are either too positive or people are too negative. सही है. So you don't get the objective.
दोनों चीजें नहीं मिलती.
You don't get an objective view of it. So ये जो है due diligence का point एक बहुत बड़ा हमारे यहाँ lacking है. Third point जो हमारे यहाँ lacking है, वो ये हमारे यहाँ depths of market नहीं है. Talent में depth नहीं है. If you want to go and find 50 coders, top line coders in Karachi, you will struggle to find them. ठीक है, you know that quality is not there. So वहाँ पे आपने टीम हायर करनी है, टीम को 500 तक ले जाना है, 1000 तक लेके जाना है, हो सकता है. Lots of people have done it. You can do it. पाकिस्तान में वो मॉडल नहीं है. ठीक है. नंबर 4 है, वहाँ पे टीम्स हैं. Because of this factor of people working with each other, people being in Silicon Valley, people know each other for a long time. So that then when they come together as teams, they've known each other before the teams are formed. So they are much more stable teams. Each team, 2, 3, 4 बंदे एक दूसरे को 10-15 साल से जानते हैं, and now they have teams.
Right.
So they are much more stable teams than you have in Pakistan. And the lastly thing is the arrangement of returns, the structuring, the understanding that if you're an employee, what is the expectation? If you're a founder, what is the expectation? वो वहाँ पे सारी set हुई हुई है. People know what is reasonable. So, and they are much more able to put that aside and focus on the business. अच्छा, पाकिस्तान में क्या मसले हैं? पाकिस्तान में मसले हैं डेप्थ टैलेंट नहीं है, उस तरह से कोड नहीं है. If you want to scale a business, it takes far more effort to scale it. ठीक है. नंबर 2, टीम्स स्टेबल नहीं है. ठीक है. So you can bet on one person, but if one person खुदा ना खास्ता बीमार पड़ जाए, कुछ हो जाए, then what happens? You need at least 3-4 people. जब 3-4 बंदे हो जाते हैं, उनमें लड़ाइयाँ हो जाती हैं. ठीक. And so they are not stable, and as a result they can fall apart. And so all of these factors, and then पाकिस्तान में ऑपरेटिंग मैंने जो आपको जिक्र किया, सिस्टम ड्रैग बहुत ज़्यादा है. ठीक. बाहर के मुल्कों में when you are a founder, you focus on the growth, you focus on technology. आपका ये नहीं कि आपका वाईफाई काम कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा. So आपको पता है पाकिस्तान में मेरे पास एक वाईफाई और हर वाईफाई का बैकअप है. मेरे पाकिस्तान में बंदा है, हर बंदे का बैकअप है. ठीक है. It's a highly inefficient system, but I need to do that because there is this operating leverage that is built into the market. So that's why scaling is very difficult. So that's why venture capital जो कि 20-25 investment करती है, उनमें से 1-50x or 20x कर जाएगी और बाकी में भी fail कर जाएंगी. It doesn't work in Pakistan because the failure rate is going to be higher in Pakistan. And even when you scaling is difficult, so returns are not going to be that high. Right? So the venture capital financial model works on the basis that there is a success rate of 10x, which is 10%, and there is, I'm just giving an example of it, and there is a 25x return, which is 5%, and then there is a 50x return, which is 1-2%. तो उसका बेसिस पे आपका पूरा का पूरा वाटरफॉल पूरा पे ऑफ होता है. अगर आपका 10x रिटर्न 10% की जगह 5% हो जाए और 25x रिटर्न 5% की जगह 1-2x हो जाए और 10 और 50x का चांसेस नहीं है. then what happens is that the return profile of your investment becomes much more unattractive in a market like Pakistan. I'm not talking about just Pakistan, in a market of Pakistan. So what you need is a more focused approach in investing, whereby you not only invest in fewer deals, but you're much more operationally hands-on.
But doesn't that seem like a red flag or a red light for a lot of countries or a lot of firms if they want to come to Pakistan? क्योंकि यहाँ पे variables बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, operational effort बहुत ज़्यादा है.
No, absolutely, and I think that's why absolutely ये इंडिया में भी है, ये बाकी वियतनाम में भी है, हर जगह भी है. सो वहाँ पे क्या होना चाहिए? देखिए, जो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर होता है वो फिकल होता है. ठीक है, फिकल का मतलब वो आता है और जाता है, आता है जाता है. एक अच्छी डील हो गई, मूड अच्छा हो गया, पाकिस्तान वाले ने आ रहे, मूड एक बुरी डील हुई, सारे लोग भाग गए. ठीक है, जो एक जमाना था, आई मेट ए वीसी इन दुबई एंड ही सेड Pakistan is the flavor of the year, of the month. If you are a Pakistani founder, I want to talk to you. Okay? But this is not a sustainable long-term thing. उसके लिए आपको क्या चीज चाहिए? उसके लिए आपको local family businesses must invest in VC. So if you think about the VC development, it's never on the basis, देखिए आपका जो छक्का होता है, आउट परफॉर्मेंस होता है, वो आपको बाहर के जो फर्स्ट राउंड कैपिटल जिस तरह के एयरलिफ्ट वगैरह में थे वो ला के देंगे. 10 मिलियन, 20-25 मिलियन डॉलर्स आपके जो आते हैं वो वहां से आते हैं. हैरी स्टेबिंग्स वो इस तरह के लेके आएंगे. बट इफ यू डोंट हैव सक्सेस, दे आर नॉट गोना कम बैक. You need the local family businesses to invest in venture capital on a consistent basis, and that proves the model, and that makes the market more somewhat stable. And then you have foreign investors come in on a regular, consistent basis. India में भी जो VC, if you remember, started in 1999. उस ज़माने में शुरू हुआ था. Private equity 1997. First round में people lost a lot of money. A lot of VC and PE people in the first round lost a lot of money. But over a period of time, the system was set. The local family businesses came in, stepped in. The Mahindras and Mahindras of the world, they set up their local funds. Because that money has to be deployed.
Yes.
Locally. And they have to invest. So it's not like, yaar, I have got option of 50 countries to invest in. I'm not going to invest in Pakistan, I'm going to invest in Turkey or Kenya. That's not the case. So Pakistan, so that needs to happen. And what is also a red flag, and this is that VCs should also think Pakistan is not a quick rich market. It is a market where probably it will take, instead of 5 years, it will take 7 years to 8 years for an investment to mature. Then you need to be very careful with your due diligence on your partner.
Yes.
Your partner, a lot of times people do smooth talk and they don't have the capability. They bring in the money. But the thing is, it's not about, hey, I raised $5 million once. It is about, I was able to raise $2 million 10 times. Repeat money coming through. Okay? That is what's going to make a sustainable, a critical mass market. उसमें हमें local players भी चाहिए, जो कि intermediaries हों, operators हों, market को जानते हो. It's better कि यार कोई बंदा, foreign बंदा आ रहा है, आपको देख रहे हैं, यार ये investment नहीं होती है, बजाय कि बेचारे से एक दफा पैसा ले आए और फिर दोबारा वो मार खाए और फिर दोबारा ना ले. It's better to say no to him कि यार this is not the right thing. Bring him on a good deal, okay? And then get 5 times more money from him next time.
Yeah.
अभी मैं कहीं पे Silicon Valley में था, तो when in June, one of the Silicon Valley venture capitalists said, "Yeah, I'll put $10 million in Pakistan. If I lose $10 million, it's not a big deal." ठीक है, उनके लिए $1 billion, $1.4 billion में $10 million is like a bet that you take. It didn't work out. But I think that's a wrong approach. I think the people should think about, I will get in $5 million and I'll make it a success, and next time I'm going to get $50 million. It's not a quick rich scheme. It's not a quick return scheme. You are building businesses, you are building sectors, you are building a country, you are building people. It's going to have outsized returns. It's not going to happen in 3 to 5 years. It's going to probably happen in 10 years. But if you stay with the market, if you are patient, and if you come with a long-term approach, and if you have partners who are more operators than consultants or investment bankers. In Pakistan, because that's, I explained why that operating experience is much more knowledgeable, much more important, then I think you will do well. It's no point investing a lot of money and then afterward have a burnt your boats and then feel that you were hard done by. A lot of times investors will put money in there to be blamed because they should have known the market better. It's not Silicon Valley.
I wanted to ask you, okay, what are the 2 to 3 things that someone should be careful of or have in mind? क्योंकि हमने ये वाली चीज़ आपने बहुत बार बता दी है, but I just want कि briefly आप pointers बता दें कि बंदे को ख्याल रखना चाहिए when they want to either invest their money or their time into Pakistan and they have less experience. That's less experience in Pakistan.
Great. So this is a very good question. It requires a lot of insight and a lot of experience. I think number one, if you are a foreign investor, you're looking to invest in Pakistan, I think 1 or 2 things you should be very careful of. You should be very careful about the tax transparency of your partner. See? If they are fully tax transparent, that tells you a mindset. They are above board, they don't take shortcuts. See? They don't believe in doing things quickly for the sake of making more money. Yeah. So that's a good indication. See? Although being in the tax net also brings a lot of challenges. आपको पता है, मगर ये एक अच्छी एक चीज, एक बिहेवियर है, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, आई थिंक मेरे लिहाज से where I have seen I have made a mistake or otherwise is I have been taken in by flashiness or big talk. See? So a lot of claims, a lot of X and Y, even a lot of wealth, and we have the ability, we have the resources to do it. I think one quality that I look for in a person when I'm trusting them is humility. Humbleness is very important. Because everyone will make mistakes. But the question is, can you take the feedback? Can you come back into it? And can you take ownership of it? ये हर किसी में नहीं होती. And if you are someone that you think that you're a big guy and you're self-entitled and everything, then when a crisis happens or something goes wrong, then you don't behave in the right way. You don't behave in a way that is conducive to that partnership. आप जो है वो सही तरह आप maybe you do try to do the wrong thing, maybe आप ऊपर से आते हैं, maybe आप fight करते हैं, rather than someone who's यार I made a mistake, let me go and fix it, let me try some way to fix it. So दूसरी चीज जो I would say is humility is something I've realized over a period of time is a big indicator also that how the relationship, how the partnership would work. Number 3 is people are very impressed by contacts and people are very interested by networking. There is no substitute for hard work. ये आप ऐसा बंदा देखिए जो कि operationally hands on हो, numbers driven and hands on person होना चाहिए. Because eventually you're always as good as your weakest link. You're always tested in the worst challenge. तो आप हर किसी का होगा, ठीक है. So आप उस पे टेस्ट होगी. The question is, how do you behave in that? Right. So someone who rolls up the sleeves and gets involved in the things is always going to be in a better position to resolve a crisis than someone who just calls people up and tries to act above the system or tries to act that मैं ये नहीं कर सकता, मैं वो नहीं कर सकता, and then tries to, and gets other people or uses contacts to do that. So that's very important in Pakistan. They don't take that away from it. But I think there is no substitute for people. जब situation बुरी होती है, they jump in a car, they go to it, that they meet the peace person, they go to the market, they get first-hand information, and they take action on the basis of that. Rather than उनके नीचे ऊपर से लेके नीचे तक 2-3 layers of people है, उस वक्त तक information जब तक आती है वो dilute हो चुकी होती है, गलत हो चुकी भी होती है, and you're actually making decision based on the wrong information set. So ये मेरे ख्याल में ये 3 चीजें हैं I would think are very very important. Humility is very important. Hands on hard work is very important. Is very important. And then I think your behavior with regards to tax transparency and everything is very very important.
इसमें एक सवाल छोटा सा और निकल आया कि yesterday I was just in an event it was by the FPCCI, सारी कराची और पाकिस्तान की associations जो है उसके presidents वहाँ पे थे, chambers 50 हैं, उसमें से 20 के presidents वहाँ पे थे. So we have all of these chambers and associations and people with big money, and the who's who of business was there. But how, so you said that we need to get these states and these traditional businesses into partnerships or them to invest, क्योंकि उनके already network बने हुए हैं, they're already operating in Pakistan, they already have the references, they already have the resources to tackle these little problems that come in, that become obstacles for these little startups, and they're not able to scale as fast. So how would you go about to pitch them? Because I've also tried. I took these delegations to Turkey last year twice, when we took local businesses, tech businesses mainly, and who wanted to start the startups. And I was like, okay, Turkey देखो किस तरह की startup market है शुरू करने के लिए, and then come to Pakistan. जब आप वहाँ कर लो, succeed हो जाओ तो Pakistan आना to expand. So we took 25 companies in the first time and then more. But when I was there, the Chamber of Commerce had an incubation center. They had a VC fund. They had a program that was actually training its members to how to invest into startups, and what are startups, क्या होता है, किस तरह होता है, क्या किस तरह due diligence करनी है, क्या नहीं करना. So how would you convince a Karachiite or a Pakistani state to just put in like 10 लाख रुपए, 50 लाख रुपए, करोड़ रुपए, जितने भी छोटा से पैसे डाल के कि ट्राई तो करना शुरू करें?
Very good question. I think, one of the things that I also have a very unique experience of, I've been to Davos 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
World Economic Forum in Davos. And when you go there, the level of organization of Indian industry, Indian groups, is far, far ahead than Pakistan. Yeah, and partly it's because of something called Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, which is the equivalent of FPCCI over here. CII, highly professional, highly organized, like a corporate runs it. And it draws a lot of revenue from its members, but it lobbies very effectively and globally projects it much better. Unfortunately, हमारी जो एजेंट है वो उससे निकल नहीं सकी हैं. हमारी जो एसोसिएशंस है वो ज़्यादातर तस्वीरें खिंचवाने, ठीक है, और उसमें ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है rather than substantial work. And I think they are not to be blamed. पाकिस्तान में unfortunately इतना ज़्यादा सिस्टम का ड्रैग होता है कि वो उसमें they are mostly dealing with that. But I think one of the things that we need to convince and show to them is that when you're in the weeds, like when you focus on the operation day to day, you need to get people to look up, okay? And look up and see beyond, and the sky and the horizon and everything. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of difference to people. वो किस तरह हो सकता है? I think वो मैंने experience किया था Jordan में when the first exit happened, which is Maktub. I'm talking about 2008, 2009 में हुआ था. Maktub got taken over, bought by Yahoo for $60 million. In those days, it was a lot of money, $60 million. So वो उन्होंने खरीदा था. उसकी वजह से suddenly there was a hope at two ends. There were investors, states and family businesses who thought कि यार this is a huge amount of money that can be made, ठीक, into in by investing in that. So everyone loves when something gets converted to cash, you get a cash return, it crystallizes. It's no longer a dream, it's no longer pursued, it's there, it's real.
Yes.
So I think एक वो हुआ. दूसरी तरफ से founders like ourselves, they got taken hope कि यार if you work hard, if you invest in infrastructure and in right value system and in culture and in tax transparency and doing the right thing, you will get the reward of it. So वो जो है ना पाकिस्तान में हमारा एग्जिट का एक पॉसिबिलिटी बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज ये दोनों एंड पे फाउंडर्स स्टार्टअप्स की तरफ से भी और हमारे इन्वेस्टर्स की तरफ से लोगों को बहुत खींचेगा, जो कि अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. आई थिंक एक तो ये बात बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है कि ये हो सकता, अगर ये होता है तो ये उनके लिए. एंड बाय द वे एवरीवन इज रैशनल एक्टर. कोई एवरीवन वांट्स टू make money and make good returns.
We have seen one, like there's Garana, who is
absolutely
local money, and then they're expanding.
They've expanded even Daraz, even Zameen and Zameen and so वो उसका है, अभी exit नहीं आया. The exit has not come, but once the exit,
जब से लेकिन Zameen की valuation का शोर शुरू हुआ है,
absolutely
शोर उसका आ रही है, लेकिन exit पे आपसे
exit क्या होता है, cash return. The other thing is you have to also tell people that look, like let's look at, I wouldn't want to name Kareem. ठीक है ना. Kareem probably from start to exit, अभी पूरा exit नहीं हुआ लेकिन जो भी exit है, at least इनके पास shares हैं and everything, was probably 8 years. ठीक है, probably 8 years. If you were a 1% shareholder in Kareem, you would probably have made $30 million.
Yeah.
ठीक है, वैसे 3 billion का $30 million आपने मारा. ठीक. So and I can tell you there were founders who had much more money than that, investors. So $30 million for anyone in 10 years is a lot of money, see, to be made. So you have to also convince them that look, it may take you 40 years to build a business, okay, but it's taken you 40 years of hard work. But in tech, you can get there in 10 years. And you can, even if you have 1%, if you own 5% of that business, you have $150 million. And I can tell you that not many people who have $150 million wealth or net worth in Pakistan. And it's all transparent money. That's all the beauty of it. You can do anything with it. If you have a lot of money lying around which is not transparent, then you can do so much with it. You can just put it in a locker or ज़मीन खरीद सकते हैं,
10% का खाता है
उसका होता है, लेकिन ये होता है. So I think we need to make cases like that to investors. I think people are rational actors. People will do the right thing, but of course they need to see the real possibility of returns.
And again, ये सही बात है वैसे कि रिजल्ट होगा. And I think same goes with जब बिटकॉइन में लोगों के पैसे बनना शुरू हुए तो even these states put a lot of
it, yes,
in crypto.
And people made money and people exited and people made money. मैंने सुना DHA में लोगों ने घर खरीद लिए crypto के ऊपर and everything, all of those things. And and as they say, there are more traders of crypto in Pakistan than the stock exchange, than the people who trade on the stock exchange.
Oh no, there's 9 million users of crypto in Pakistan.
हाँ, versus 200,000 or 300,000.
मैंने आज तक स्टॉक मुझे पता ही नहीं खरीदते कैसे मतलब मुझे वो एजुकेशन नहीं मिली, लेकिन मुझे ये पता है कि क्रिप्टो कैसे खरीदना है. क्यों? क्योंकि जो हमारे जो content बन रहा है and there's influences within Pakistan, they're making content on that. And there's a lot of, so Pakistan does need a lot of awareness, content, and that's why we actually made this incubator. क्योंकि आप हैं, कोई और VC है या कोई स्टार्टअप कर रहा है या कोई एजुकेशन दे रहा है या कोई सिखा रहा है या जो भी नॉलेज जानता है, वो कंटेंट हम चाहते हैं कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग
बिल्कुल
आगे पहुँचाएं. और क्योंकि we can go to an event, there can be tens of thousands of people, but a video can still be reached to at least 1 million people in like what, $500.
Absolutely.
And this power that we have now, we want to capitalize over that and just use it to empower more and more people कि ज़्यादा स्टार्टअप शुरू हो. And we have, ऊपर हमने इंक्यूबेटर बनाया जहाँ पे लोग जो बाहर बिलबोर्ड लगा हुआ है कि लाख रुपए महीना लोग कमाएंगे. We created agencies of, because startup हम पहले करते थे. My dad wanted to do it so much before, but वो नहीं कर सके, तो अब हम ज़बरदस्ती लोगों को करा रहे हैं. तो now they come and they start earning online. They start making their companies agencies, and we're getting these small SMEs where people make the agencies. We become a partner also. So there's 4 partners, 3 of them and 1 of us. So 25% हमारे पास है. But उसमें हम कर ये रहे हैं कि उन लोगों को, उन बच्चों को, उन बड़े लोगों को जो जॉब में अभी हैं, उनको इस स्केल पे लेके आ रहे हैं कि वो दुनिया के सामने अपने आप को प्रेजेंट कर सके. And then they actually make good exits. क्योंकि we've seen like in e-commerce businesses or other businesses, people have made $100 million exits, even if we talk about extreme commerce. So we're not doing e-commerce, we're doing different digital agencies and stuff like that. फिर हमने school खोला है Korangi where we're teaching kids how to run a business, and they're working on specific SDGs. कि कोई बच्चा है या कोई लड़की है वो फॉरेस्ट पे काम करना चाह रही है, तो उसका हमने नाम रख दिया लाइबा फॉरेस्ट वाली. And now she makes content related to forest every single day. She watches a TED talk in that specific niche. कि TED forestation का कोई भी TED talk है वो देखेगी रोज, और रोज एक वीडियो बना के डालेगी LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram सब पे, और जिसमें बंदे ने वीडियो बनाई उसको टैग कर देगी. So now she's automatically in the network. She's telling them कि जी मैंने आपसे ये सीखा. तो she's that person's student, a person who's given a TED talk. And 2 साल के बाद, 2 साल तक हम कराते हैं तो 600 वीडियोस जब बन जाती हैं बच्चों की. Now the amount of network and that they're gonna have, and the amount of, they're gonna be Malalas in their own space.
Yes, very interesting.
और वहाँ पे जाके we've actually created a fund and we're trying to get more people into it. और उन लोगों में हम वो फंड करेंगे, उनके स्टार्टअप शुरू करा रहे हैं ऑलरेडी, और फिर वो जब जाके मतलब आप उस बच्चे से कुछ भी पूछें कि फॉरेस्टेशन में या कराची में इतने दरख्त कैसे लगाएं, उसको पता होगा, हमारे फॉरेस्ट मिनिस्टर को शायद इतना
ना बताओ। बिल्कुल।
तो हम वो कैरेक्टर, वो रोल मॉडल्स बनाने के लिए हमने स्कूल बनाया कोरंगी में, तो आई वुड डेफिनेटली वांट यू टू टेक यू देयर एज वेल।
इंशाल्लाह।
तो I don't think we've missed out on anything related to investments in Pakistan. A great talk. Thank you so much for coming, and it was really an honor and great to meet you again without knowing. So again, thank you so much for doing amazing work, and I wish you all the best. You have all of our support. Let me know whenever I can help. Because I also run Startup Grind in Karachi.
Ji, of course. No, thank you very much, and this is a fantastic place, Manzoor Colonies, Mahmoodabad ki interjunction pe, in the grassroots, in the right part of town. I'm very proud of what you've done, and inshallah, the work that you've done in this area is gonna make people, empower people, give them hope, and make them into founders and into companies.
Inshallah.
So and then help raise funds and then get exits, which is going to be a big service to Pakistan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Startups, entrepreneurship, starting your own new business. Join me every week as we dive into stories, topics, and advices from the top founders, innovators, the crazy ones, the misfits, the troublemakers. Every Saturday at 4 p.m. I'll see you there.